Greetings, I'm Bill Kladke, and I'd like to welcome you to today's edition of Neighborhood Beat. Our show today looks at home energy needs in Maryland, what you need to know about possible help for paying your energy bills, as well as how to understand and get the best out of your energy costs. Our guest is Mary Ellen Vanni, who is Executive Director of the Fuel Fund of Maryland.
Thanks so much for having me, Bill.
Thank you so much for coming.
It's really my pleasure, absolutely.
Thank you. First of all, for those of our viewers who are unfamiliar, could you please tell us a little bit about the Fuel Fund of Maryland?
Sure. The Fuel Fund of Maryland started out really as the Baltimore Fuel Fund in 1978, and Mrs. Adams, who was a city councilwoman, discovered the need in her community, and it was highlighted by the fact that a couple actually froze to death in their home within her city council district. And it was the time during the oil embargoes and high energy costs in the 70s. And she decided, and I love this story because she wrote to all of her Christmas card people, everyone she was sending a card to, and said, could you make a donation to a fund I'm going to start for my constituents to help them stay warm during the winter and to avoid these tragedies. And so with donations from about 350 people, she started working with Department of Social Services and said, this is money just to help people avoid these service disconnections and to avoid taking risks during the winter to keep, using candles or keep the lights on. So that was the start. Then, as time went on, different organizations, even the media, found out about what she was doing and suggested that she work with the media and work with Baltimore Gas and Electric Company to try to broaden her her scope so that instead of just her city council district, it would help people in the whole city. And then Baltimore Gas and Electric gave her some seed money if she would expand it to help all of the people in their service territory. And so for more than 30 years, we've been continuing to ask for help during the wintertime. BGE puts an envelope in their bills during the wintertime every year, and that is our basis for getting donations.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. How long have you been with the Fuel Fund?
I've been with the Fuel Fund for 13 lucky years, and we have grown since 1998. We have grown a lot and expanded our services so that the price of heating your home has doubled in the last couple of years, and each year it seems that there are fluctuations in electricity, gas, and oil prices. And so what we thought was that instead of just helping folks pay their bills, we would also start to teach folks how to reduce their energy bills so that they would have, we could help more people with less money for each one, and then the individuals would have more control over how they use home energy.
It makes a lot of sense. How can someone get in touch with you?
Well, we have an administrative office, and there is a phone number, 410-821-3022. And if you press 1, it will give you the phone numbers for all of our agencies throughout the state. We also have a website, Fuel Fund Maryland, all spelled out, .org. And if you go on our website, it has all the information about who's eligible, how to apply, and where to go to get help.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I know that the Fuel Fund of Maryland is an organization that plays a critical role for so many people now. And I know that your administrative costs are very low too. I mean, that's been a credo since the start.
Yes, it has been, because Mrs. Adams had a very good idea. In a way, she just didn't want to start a new institution, so she was always using the Department of Social Services or other agencies, the community action agencies, to actually do the eligibility test with people, and also for them to make the actual payments to the utility company or the oil company.
Saving administrative costs.
Yes,
all along the line.
Exactly, exactly. And so we continue to do that. We are below 10%. Last year was, I think, 8.9%. And in administrative and fundraising costs, we've been receiving the certificate from the Maryland Association of Nonprofit Organizations for having the highest standards in business practices for nonprofits for 12 years.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And you said you're across Maryland.
Well, we are primarily in the central Maryland area. We are moving out into western Maryland, and we are very interested in becoming statewide, but we have to be very careful that we are meeting the need of our original population. However, since we've started the education program, we have been expanding beyond central Maryland, and in Washington County we have a program in energy conservation education. It is called Watt Watchers.
Watt Watchers.
Watt
That's
Watchers.
Great.
So
That's great.
we
Copyrighted, I'm
yeah,
sure.
Copyright, right? We are getting that copyright, and we what we do is we bring people together to talk about their energy costs. We help them understand what the bill means when they get their bill, what the numbers on the bill means.
Let's talk about that, because that's something that I have trouble too.
Right.
And we all need more education about that bill, and that bill is critical.
Right.
And it's a bigger and bigger chunk of things. So please help us.
It is very, very critical, because I think some people think that it is just magic, or that this number is just a number that the utility or oil company figured out for themselves. But on your utility bill, there is a charge that we're going to have to pay every single month, whether we use electricity or gas or not, just for having that service, just as we do with our telephone service or mobile phone service. But there are things that we have control over, and the main thing we have control over is the number of kilowatts or the number of therms that we actually use in our home. And as soon as we know where to find that number, which is on the back of the bill, we can start talking to our family members about, now let's look at this number. We want this number to come down. Let's say it's 500 kilowatts in a month. I want this number to come down to 400 kilowatts, and start to tell the family how they can help that number come down. And one of the main ways to get it to come down is to reduce the heat in your home to 68 degrees, and in the summertime, the air conditioning, keep it at 78 degrees. That is the major way to reduce the amount of energy that you're using in your home.
So 68 in the winter.
That's right.
And 78 in the summer.
Right, and have blankets and sweaters and sweatpants so that the family can warm themselves up, even though the area that they might be sitting in might not be warm.
Let me ask you something, and this comes from my childhood.
Yes.
Okay, from my childhood. My father used to always get after me for not turning off the lights in rooms.
Excellent, excellent. And my mother would come home and say, every light in this house is on.
Right, right.
And so that is another very easy behavioral thing that everybody can start to do. Just as you leave a room, just turn the light off. And that saves a lot of money. If you are still using regular light bulbs, you can feel the heat from that light bulb. And actually in the summertime, that's heating up your house a little. It's not so good. Counterproductive. Yeah. Using the CFL light bulbs also reduces your bill very quickly. You will notice a change immediately if you use the fluorescent bulbs. But I'm glad you brought that up, because what we find out is it doesn't cost money to reduce your energy bill. It just is a change in behavior. So insulating the home is very helpful, and caulking around the windows. But we actually have the power within ourselves to just reduce our bills and to get make it a family affair. Some families actually are figuring out how much money they saved and taking that money and putting it aside and saying, okay, we'll have a pizza party if we all work together and reduce this energy bill.
Well, use it as, make it a fun thing.
That's
right.
Make it a fun thing.
That's the way to do it.
Right,
That's the way to do it. Do you have tips like this on your website?
We do. We have tips on the website, and we really, in our Watt Watchers classes, what is interesting is to have people talk about which of the tips really they are able to implement. So and the tips are spread around the entire house. When you're cooking, if you take a pot and use the right size pot for what you're cooking, instead of using too big a pot, then you will use less energy. If you use a microwave instead of using the electric oven, that saves energy. There are so many small things that we can do that that make a huge difference.
What about the other one that I got when I was a kid was leaving the door open?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
leaving the door open. I mean, if we can save energy by just filling a little tiny hole in the wall, leaving the door open, or leaving the door open in the refrigerator. I mean, opening the refrigerator door is another one. You know, taking inventory, standing there and taking inventory to decide what you want to eat. That's another one. And teenagers often have that problem of
Right. Yeah, right,
decide
right.
what you want before you go to the refrigerator. That's right.
That's right.
But, you know, Bill, there are so many people who, no matter how much they reduce the bill or put all of those practices into effect, still cannot afford to pay their bill.
Yeah, what can they do?
Yeah, and I have to tell you that we are finding more and more people who are working very hard to reduce their energy bills, but they live in poor housing, or their rental housing, and the landlord and the homeowners are not putting these insulation into the home. So they really sometimes get into a crisis situation, and they are in danger of losing their electricity. And that is usually when they call their utility company and say, I just can't pay this bill. And the utility company will often refer them to the fuel fund or to the Maryland Home Energy Assistance Program.
And how does your program then work?
Well, since ours is private donations, our program exists completely on private donations. And we do have this envelope that BG helps us to raise money through. And so everybody has already paid their taxes, and that money goes into to the federal government. Federal government has a fund called the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, and they distribute funds to each state. So we will tell everyone to get whatever you can from the government program, and they will come to us with a certificate showing they've gotten that money.
So how do they find out about that program? How do they get in touch with
well,
that program?
If they call us, we will get them in touch with the program.
And
Once again,
help to guide them through the
that's
process.
right, and guide them through the process.
Okay.
But there are offices throughout the state for that program. And so as soon as they have evidence that they have applied for that, then they can apply to us to get help. If they have been eligible for the government program, they're eligible for our program. And even people who have an income a little bit higher than what the federal eligibility rate is, they can still get help from us. And once a year.
Mm-hmm. Could you give us a rough idea about how much income would qualify? I know it's a sliding scale.
Right. It's for us it's about 200% of poverty, which is about $36,000 a year for a family of three. And so it's not, but most of the people who come to us for help are in a much lower income level. They have gotten help from, a lot of people get help from the government, and that's enough. But the people who come to us have an income probably at $1,000 a month for a family of three. So, but eligibility up to 200% of poverty for the fuel fund, and for the federal government's program, it is 175% of poverty, and our website has that information, which is fuelfundmaryland.org.
Great. And so after they apply, then
Yes.
you can help them out, I would think, pretty quickly?
Right. And from the start, Mrs. Adams said this needs to be a partnership between the fuel fund and the person who's coming for help. The person pays as much of the bill as they can. And currently they're paying about 51% of the amount that is still owing. And then the fuel fund, along with some credits from BGE, if it happens to be a BGE customer, will pay the other 49%. Our limit is about $250 per customer, but the credit is 50 cents on a dollar that BGE offers, 50 cents on every dollar the customer pays
great.
and that we pay. So it is a big help, and it makes a big difference to take the bill and say, if you can pay half of it, we can help you with the other half. Or if you can pay 2/3, we can help you with the other third.
It becomes doable.
It really does. And people want to pay their bills. They want to be responsible for the bill. And so that's the way it works. The customer pays as much of the bill as they can. They get help from the federal program, and they get help once a year.
Yeah. Let's underline that, because the fact that almost everybody that you see wants to pay their bill.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. It's not like people are trying to shyster out of something.
No.
It's erroneous to consider the folks that are having financial problems like that as being irresponsible about paying their dues.
That's absolutely true. And there are people who won't come back a second year because they think, well, let's help somebody else, not me. And we have evidence that, close to 50% of the people we help don't come back the following year. It's not like we have a stable...
So it's a temporary...
Yeah, temporary.
To help them over a rough patch.
That's correct.
A layoff, a lost job, an illness, something like that.
That's correct.
Really hurt them financially.
I had... One of the most touching stories was a family in Carroll County one time, and they called us for help. But the way they found out about us was that one of the children had stopped going to school, and the school nurse used to have to give some medication to this child every lunchtime. And so she actually went out to the home to find out what was happening, and because the child wasn't in school. And the father had lost his job, and the mother was working part-time, but their utilities had been turned off. The children were embarrassed to go to school because their clothes weren't clean. They didn't have a bath. When we think about the fact that 50% of the people who get help from us are children, because they are the most vulnerable people, and they suffer greatly. Many instances people will call for help, and I'll say, well, where are you staying now? And the mother will say, well, my children are with my mother, and I'm staying in the house, because it breaks up families to have this happen. And then it also sometimes causes children to have to change schools, try to make new friends, and lose time scholastically, not keeping up with their class. It is so. So we think about the children throughout the year, because we are so concerned that this can be a scar, for a lifetime, just to be living without heat.
Absolutely, because the energy costs, when you think about that, and I guess from your experience, it's often what tips people into homelessness.
That's right. It absolutely is. You really cannot stay in. Well, one is subsidized housing if you don't have heat and utilities. You really, a landlord isn't really allowed to rent to you if you don't have a current utility account. And that is one of the primary calls to 211, which is a information telephone service in Maryland, is how can I get help with my gas and electric bill?
Yeah. Let's excuse me. Let's talk about trends, because I know that you've outlined for us and described for us, and I appreciate it, the nitty-gritty of the situation, how people can get help, but one of the many reasons why I wanted to have you on the show today was that the need is worse than ever right now, and people need to help. People in our viewing audience need to help.
That's right.
First, let's tell them how to help, and then please give them an indication of why it's so tough right now.
Right. How to help, how we can help, or how I want people to know that there is help. There is help. And so we can help families by, if you have a need, or if your neighbor needs something, or your family members need something, please make sure that they get in touch with us, and we will, through the telephone, 410-821-3022, and we will make sure they get the help they need. If there are people in the viewing audience who would like to help and would like to make a contribution to us, please go to our website and you can do that. The help, I think we have to translate some of the things we read in the newspaper. We hear that there's a high unemployment rate. We hear that there are layoffs. Well, what does that translate to? That translates to people not having income, or people taking jobs that are much lower pay than they had been before. These folks are falling into poverty. They're falling into our income guidelines. These folks are increasing the number of people who come to the Fuel Fund for help, and that is how the need explodes throughout the state. Whenever we hear about a plant closing or a company moving out of the state of Maryland and we're losing 800 jobs or 600 jobs, those are 600 more families probably who might be coming to us for help. Now, the other dire situation that we're in is that the federal program that I referred to is a program that is funded through what we keep hearing about, this budget that's not being passed.
Right.
And the amount of money for that program is being decreased. So the amount of money that's going to come to the state of Maryland when that budget is finally passed is going to be well below half of what it was before. There are at least 300,000 families in the central Maryland area that are eligible for that program, and only 100,000 are being helped because
really?
Because they don't know about it, they don't come, and nationally it's pretty much that. And in central Maryland, I think it's only 65,000 of the families are getting the help that they need. And nationally that's true. Only about a third of the families who need help go and get it. This is not an entitlement program. It has a fixed amount of money. When the money is gone, it's gone. So when we get half as much money, do we help half as many people, or do we help as many people with half the amount? And those are the questions that our state program is asking itself now. And what's the Fuel Fund asking? We're saying, how are we going to raise twice as much money, because the need for private dollars is going to increase so much in the next year that we are really challenged to make sure that we are beefing up all of our activities to make sure that the public, and that's why I appreciate being here, the public understands the need so that they can also be a part of the solution.
It really is a challenge. Whether you're a religious person or not, when God closes one door, He opens another one.
Yeah.
And and one way of looking at this is that it's an opportunity for Marylanders to step up, isn't it?
It really is.
I mean, those of us that can help, this is the time to help.
This is the time to help. And I'm telling you, $100 will get a family through the winter. A $100 donation will get a family through the winter. And also, I think that it makes you feel good to be able to tell your children, that we're doing this, to teach them, this is what we're doing for you all, for our family, and this is what we're doing for people who are less fortunate. And it helps people enjoy the holidays more because they know that they have done their part to help another family.
Yeah, I guess that's why giving always goes up before Christmas.
Yes.
But we need to underline to folks, that in the summer,
yes,
there are folks that need money to pay their utilities too.
Right,
yeah.
Throughout the year. And in the summertime, more people die actually of heat-related illnesses than in the wintertime.
Really?
Yes. But it is something throughout the year. We want kids to be able to do their homework every night. We want those lights to be on. We want electricity bills go up during the summertime when the children are home. They're home all day. And so, of course, the utility bills are going to go up. During the holidays, the bills go up because families are home and not out of the house.
Yeah, home energy is something that touches so many parts of our life. We can't get adequate education unless we have the lights to study and to read. Correct. We can't have a job unless we have the fuel and the poor kids who couldn't take their showers in order to go. You can't hold a job unless you're presentable, and that means you need the energy to shave and to get adequate nourishment and to be clean.
Exactly. And a mother called the other day saying that she had a nebulizer, and I'm not exactly sure what that medical instrument does, but it's something that needs electricity for her child. Yeah. And and then families that also call because their children have diabetes, they have the insulin, it needs to be refrigerated. We have to think of all of these things. it takes a lot of time to apply for these programs, and so people sometimes lose time from work actually doing it. So we try to expedite it. We do it to help people spend as little time as possible, coming to us.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great. Have you seen an uptick in response since you started your education program?
We have. We have a number. We have to date in 3 years. We have 1,000 graduates of that program who know, and they are saving like $50 a month. Some families are saving $50 a month because they are putting that Watcher training into effect.
Wow, and that can help.
Yeah.
Cut them over the winter.
Exactly. It helps cut them over the winter.
Yeah.
It helps them have much more pride and self-esteem because they can pay their bills. People are proud of being able to pay their bills.
Yeah, they are. They are. It's a basic part of what we are.
Yes, that we're. Well, what I hear parents say, and especially dads say, I'm so embarrassed that I can't take care of my family.
Yeah.
That's what I'm supposed to do, is and I have had a gentleman crying on the phone. A gentleman was crying on the phone. He said, I've worked all of my life, and just this, I can't bear this.
Yeah.
I just need some help.
Well, thank God there's the Fuel Fund to help them in their rough patch, get them back on their feet.
And thank God there are generous Marylanders who are helping us.
Amen. Amen. For those generous Marylanders, and for more information, if you want to apply for something, could you give us that contact information one more time, please?
Yes, please go to our website, www.fuelfundmaryland, spell Maryland out, .org, or call us, 410-821-3022.
Great. Thank you so much, Mary
Bill,
Ellen.
thank you.
Unfortunately, that's all we have time for.
Well, I'd love to come back sometime.
Do. Give us an update. Give us an update. Hopefully it will be an update of showing that Marylanders are responding.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm sure they will.
Okay. For Neighborhood Beat, that's all we have time for today. I want to thank our guest, Mary Ellen Vanni, who's Executive Director of the Fuel Fund of Maryland. Thank you so much,
Thank
Mary
you,
Ellen.
Bill.
Keep up your good work for all of us.
Thank you, and you keep up yours,
getting
the word out.
Thank you. For Neighborhood Beat, I want to thank you for tuning in. Let's try to be a good neighbor out there in all of our neighborhoods, and we'll see you next time.